much again. Yes, thank you. We're recording because several town energy committees members could not join us this evening, but thank you to everyone who could. Really appreciate you taking the time. I'm Johanna Miller. I lead the Energy and Climate program at the Vermont Natural Resources Council. We're a partner and I help to coordinate the Vermont Energy and Climate Action Network. As you know, many of you have been part of this for a long time. VECAN is an informal network of town energy committees across Vermont, you all, and many partners who do or want to support your important local efforts. And the partners in VECAN include Vital Communities, the Vermont Council on Rural Development, Efficiency Vermont, and the Energy Action Network. We also collaborate closely with regional planning commissions, and there are several RPC representatives on the call this evening. So thanks to all of those folks because they helped to organize this event. So this webinar is a post-survey session for energy committees to sort of learn, connect, and sort of set the stage for deeper collaboration. What we've tried to put together tonight is the first in a series of ongoing webinars that are critically now further informed by what we've learned from so many of you from our recent survey. To that end, I want to start first by thanking the 56 towns, the town energy committee leaders who once again took some time away from your families, friends, and your busy lives to fill out our long survey and share with us, current information about your committee's work, your structure, your priorities, your goals, as well as importantly, the information, about the work you have already done or that you might want to or need to do to assess the needs and opportunities for helping your municipalities reduce energy and fossil fuel consumption in the building and fleet sector in particular. So that survey, that information that so many of you provided us will be incredibly helpful to inform VECAN's work planning, and we hope our partners, again, including many of the important partners here this evening, like regional planning commissions. So, more so that work, we hope is really important to ensuring that you all, as so many of you already are really an increasingly trusted partner to and a collaborator with your select boards or city councils who have, as you are I'm sure well aware, or soon will be making decisions about how to spend American Rescue Plan Act dollars, or excitingly other potential ensuing federal or state funds, including potentially revenues from the Municipal Energy Resilience Initiative Bill H518, which is under consideration in the House and in the legislature at this moment to support municipal energy innovation and investments. So since those funding questions were clearly a key theme for many energy committees across the state, we organized what we hope is a useful agenda this evening. So we've crammed a ton into tonight. I hope you can stay for it all. Let me just quickly run through the agenda. In moments, my colleague Greta Hassler will do a high-level overview of the survey results. After that, we're going to hear from VLCT's, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, Arpa expert Katie Buckley, who's going to overview Arpa eligible projects and provide some general guidance related to strategic planning strategies to help your community use those dollars, or in general set the stage for advancing energy saving and innovation projects at the municipal level. From there, we're going to hear from Ann Janda, the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, who'll outline some of the ways RPCs are supporting communities, as many of you know, in their ramped up work to really help their municipalities advance energy priorities. So then we're going to have some time for Q&A after those two presentations. Then I want to just put a couple of draft resources that we put together that would really benefit from your input in terms of potential useful tools to support your work at the local level. And then I'm going to turn it over to my fellow VECAN partner, Sarah Brock of Vital Communities, to walk us through and break us into small group discussions. So we can connect in smaller groups to dig into some of the questions, priorities that we have collectively. So we'll have some prompt questions and an ability to have a smaller group conversation. And after that, don't leave, because after the small breakouts, we're gonna come back into the big Zoom room for the results of the random drawing. drum roll at some point, we put together and offered $1,000 prize for one energy committee who's randomly chosen to support your important work with it as a sincere thanks for filling out that survey. So we're going to hope to wrap by 7:30. So there's a lot to cover. I know it. And there's a lot to do, as you know. We have a serious obligation when it comes to the climate crisis, which is also a massive opportunity. But a couple of quick things before I turn it over to Greta to overview the top line survey results. First of all, just to underscore how important your work is. We need you and local leadership more than ever. And VECAN really looks forward to finding ways to partner with you more effectively and partner with RPCs and others, including VLCT and others who are really focused on this work. So, that this evening will help inform that. And I just want to remind us that, to do this work, we now have a legally binding framework embedded in the Global Warming Solutions Act, requiring Vermont to make climate progress in a cost-effective, equitable, and comprehensive way. Looking at win-win opportunities and benefits and reducing climate pollution, but also helping our communities become more resilient and adapt in a warming world. So there's a lot to do, but there's a lot of great people doing this work. And our hope is that this event tonight really helps to focus where we might collectively push through leadership at the local level. So I want to turn it over to my fabulous and still fairly new colleague, Greta Hassler, to walk you through the input we heard from you all in our recent survey. So Greta, if you are able, take it away.
All right, thanks, Joey. And hi, everyone. Like Joey said, I'm Greta. I am fairly new. I started in December, but it's great to be here with all of you and starting to get to know many of you pretty well, which is great. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. All right, so before getting started, I just want to say that these slides are going to have a lot of data in them. And so I want you all to know that you shouldn't feel like you have to take really great notes. If you want to, you are welcome to, obviously, but we're going to share all of these with you afterwards. So just know that you will get a copy of this after the fact. So just follow along as you can, but we've got a lot to get through. So hopefully I'll be able to move through it quickly and you can stay with me, but don't feel like you have to take notes. Oop. All right. So first slide really is about the first section of the survey, which was all about understanding the landscape of energy committees in the state. So how are they structured? How old are energy committees, and do you have funding to support your work? So the chart on the left shows that the majority of energy committees, or 56% that responded, are a formal energy committee or one serving under the select board, and much fewer of you are informal groups, ad hoc, or maybe a single energy coordinator for your town. In the bottom right, you'll see how old is your energy group. So most of you, about 80% combined, have been doing this for at least 2 years. And about half have been doing this for at least 5 years. So there's a lot of experience in this group to share with those that may be newer or just getting started. And in the top right, you'll see that what many of you already know, more than half of you are doing this without any dedicated funding on an annual basis. So while some groups do receive some funding from their towns or planning commissions, this work is largely done by volunteers, and it's done without funding. So this is an overview of successful projects or initiatives that you've all undertaken in the past year or so. So as you'll see, window dressers is right at the top of the list. That's been a major focus and a major success for many of you, followed by residential and community solar, informational webinars and events, and weatherization. And there's a lot of room towards the bottom for different and new things. And on the right, there are some other examples that maybe didn't fit squarely into any of the categories on the graph, but were interesting. So we thought we could share them with all of you. One being somebody got a car dealership to donate an EV to a school for a driver's ed program. And so, yeah, just some interesting kind of breakdown of where all of your time has been spent and where you've been successful. Looking ahead, priorities for the year ahead are pretty evenly distributed. Many of you, over a third roughly, are thinking about weatherization, either residential or municipal weatherization. And we know there will be significant funding for that coming down the line. So that's great. And there's some focus on transportation efforts like EV charging stations, fare-free public transit, ride sharing, that kind of thing. And there are also some other priorities, some creative examples on the right. So becoming a net zero emissions community, recruiting new members to your energy committee. And that's actually going to lead me nicely into the next slide, which is challenges. So we're going to get into municipal level challenges a little bit later, but as far as generally what you all are experiencing as challenges as energy committees, the lack of membership or capacity within the committee was a big one. So that was almost a third of the top 5 challenges. And you also noted lack of funding, which, as we saw earlier, many of you are doing this with $0 on an annual basis. So of course, that's going to be a challenge. And then some other challenges noted on the right. How do you best reach out to members of your community? How can we begin to break down some of the policy barriers at the state and local level? Because as you know, and many of you already have begun to tackle this, building relationships with leadership at those levels can make all the difference in your ability to implement a project successfully. All right, so this was section 3 of the survey, which was all about municipal energy portfolio and where energy committees have or could identify strategic investments to help move their community into building a clean energy portfolio. So there were 5 categories of where your energy committee could be focusing their efforts at the municipal level on the left. And so as you can see, many chairs felt confident, which is the green yes bar, that there was an energy audit completed for most or all municipal buildings. And likewise, an analysis of the town's electricity sources and cost was a strong yes category. But many of you also said that you weren't sure, which is the yellow bar. So maybe you think that an analysis of that cost for electricity in your town exists at the town offices or at an RPC, but your energy committee doesn't have access to that information. So that's definitely room for progress. And then finally, these kind of last 3, inventorying fleets, thermal energy, and building upgrades and replacements are far less far along, but we are going to be talking a little bit later, as Joey mentioned, some resources that VECAN is planning to help kind of assist and support all of you in tackling those pieces that maybe are less far along. And when thinking about making progress on municipal infrastructure and energy projects, we're all aware that ARPA dollars are available to invest in our communities. And so we asked all of you how you are feeling about advocating for this funding to be spent on energy projects. So on the left, you can see that many of you feel somewhat prepared or not prepared, and far fewer of you feel totally prepared and ready to advocate for ARPA dollars to go towards your energy work. So everyone's at different stages of this process, and guidance is evolving, and it's complicated. And so we're hoping to address a lot of this here tonight. And our first real effort to kind of address the things that we heard in this survey is to start to tackle some of these challenges with you guys. So on the right, identified challenges. The breakdown of challenges is pretty evenly spread, but funding, you can see the teal is funding, and the light yellow next to it is capacity. So these are things that are both being addressed through ARPA funding, funding obviously at the municipal level, but capacity at RPCs as well. So we have a number of energy planners at RPCs that are here with us this evening that we've invited, and many of which are going to be facilitating breakout rooms with you all. So those folks are here, and they're here to support the work that you're all doing at the RPC level. And wrapping up, so final thoughts. I know this is a lot of information and I'm moving quickly, but some final thoughts just to summarize. There's a clear need for more capacity in energy committees, at RPCs, and in our energy workforce at places like Efficiency Vermont. And lack of funding is a major challenge, but this is the moment to capitalize on federal dollars. And at the municipal level, the need to focus on transportation and thermal investments. As we know, transportation being the #1 greenhouse gas emitting sector state, and thermal the second, right behind it. Those are big categories where we can make a dent. And municipal level policy or outreach strategies, tackling things like town ballot items, select board relationship building. Many energy committees noted that they have a liaison that either attends select board meetings from their energy committee or vice versa, and that can be really helpful and a good first step in building a relationship with your select board. And finally, energy planners at RPCs and staff at Efficiency Vermont are here to be resources for you all. So please reach out to them. And we've invited many of those folks here tonight for that reason. So we're all here to be supportive of each other, and that's something that they would love to help you all with. And relationship building with your utilities can be helpful as well. So RPCs, energy planners at RPCs can help facilitate that relationship if helpful. And this is my last slide, but just wanted to again say thank you to all of you for all the time that you spent filling out the survey. And as you can see, it's been really informative for us already, and we hope it just continues to allow us to build our work and support all of you in a really effective way. So thank you. I will turn it back over to Joey.
Thank you, Greta. Again, a ton to throw at you all, but this was just really important context to us, for us to inform what we're putting together tonight and what we hope to continue to put together for you all. And as Greta said, you all are well aware, the ARPA dollars are an unprecedented opportunity. Some communities have appropriated those dollars, some have not. There are other potential federal funding resources coming down the line, and other resources potentially coming from like the Municipal Energy Resilience Initiatives bill and beyond. So doing this work, planning for it, is really critical. And we are very lucky to have this evening a couple of incredible resources to help us, help Vermont communities really think about, and plan for the energy innovation opportunities. And Katie Buckley from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns is going to overview, all the work that VLCT has been doing. She is now a renowned expert, I think, in the state of Vermont about setting the stage for using those dollars. And I think the guidance that Katie will offer this evening will be applicable beyond ARPA too. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Katie, who is the director of the Vermont League of Cities and Towns ARPA Assistance and Coordination Program. So thanks so much, Katie, for joining us this evening, and please take it away.
Well, thanks, Joy. I'm glad to be here. I don't know if I'd say anyone's an expert at ARPA. It's been a pretty mysterious funding source for those of us who are used to dipping our toes in the federal funding water. But so it's going to be more information overload. I'm sorry. So I figure the best way for you to understand how to approach your board is to actually understand the funding. So I'm going to run through a slide deck, which is a lot of just basic American Rescue Plan Act information about the funding, and then we'll move over into a little bit more relevant information. So I'm going to try and screen share, see if I can do that. And are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. I'm going to get rolling. So we'll just outline what we're going to cover tonight. And just as a point of reference, I am going to share a PDF of my slide deck after with Joey or the whole team. They can send it out to whoever wants it. And throughout my slide deck, anywhere you see bolded language that's underlined, it is a link to a document, a resource, a web page, some other piece of information that rounds out the topic that I'm talking about. So tonight I'm going to give you a little background on ARPA, Vermont's share of the funding, final rule, basics spending, the standard allowance, Vermont and nationally, public engagement, and ARPA and energy initiatives. So by now we're all familiar with the American Rescue Plan Act. It was officially 1 year old last Friday, and like any 1 year old, it's a toddler and it's learning to walk, especially in Vermont. You mentioned that some towns have spent their money. Very few have. A lot of communities are holding back on their funding, and that's because we've told them to wait, to be patient and wait for other funding to arrive. So the American Rescue Plan Act created the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. That's a mouthful to say. So anytime you hear ARPA, that's what we're talking about. The purpose was to support governments in their response to and recovery from COVID-19. It's a lot of funding that is for municipalities. It's direct funding from Treasury. So there is no middleman there. It is grant agreement directly with Treasury, no state in between. And as I said, it's implemented by the final rule. That provides all the rules of the road for the funding. So Vermont will receive $1.25 billion in ARPA money. A little over 200 million is going directly to cities, towns, and villages, and a little over 1 billion is going through the state of Vermont. And that's hopefully if our federal government can leave it intact and not get their hands on it to fill other holes. So because Vermont does not have traditional style of county government, ARPA funds for the county were reallocated out to municipalities, which means our ARPA awards for towns much higher in Vermont. It works out to about $300 per Vermonter. Of the 1 billion going through the state of Vermont, this money goes out the door as grants, both direct assistance to households and businesses, but also grants available to municipalities, largely to support and advance water and sewer projects. Half of the state money was allocated in the last legislative session, and the remainder is being discussed actually as we speak right now, hopefully with more of it forthcoming throughout the session. And as you can see in the image on the right, 90% of the 277 towns that chose to accept their ARPA awards, 90% of them are receiving $100,000 or more. And for small towns with populations less than 1,000 people, of only elected officials to administer federal funding and all the strings that go along with it, it can be overwhelming. So the largest award, just as a point of reference, is no surprises, Burlington. They got a little over $27 million, and the smallest award is Victory of Vermont at about $19,000. So the final rule, as I said, it is the implementation side of the American Rescue Plan Act. And for about 7 months, we had an interim rule that was guiding us, and we just got the final rule, January 6th, that brought about a lot of changes. So it takes effect, the final rule, April 1st, 2022. However, recipients can follow it now with no penalty. The timing of it is all funds must be obligated by December 31st, 2024, and all funds spent by December 31st, 2026. The legislative body and municipalities, select boards, board of aldermen, city councilors, village trustees, they are the ultimate arbiters. They decide how the funding is spent. There is no higher authority or approval process that they must go through to decide whether or not they can fund their projects. And all towns report directly to Treasury on their funding. And all municipalities have an annual reporting date of April 30th every year through 2027, with the exception of Burlington. They're kind of a outlier in this whole process. And the timeline, the rules, everything, local ARPA for municipalities, state ARPA, they all follow the same rules and timeline. They're no different. They both have the same grant agreement with Treasury. So what can't you spend your money on? You can't do deposits into pension funds, contributions to reserve funds, or pay down outstanding debt service. The one thing that did come out of the final rule, which is fantastic, is you can use your ARPA funds as non-federal match. So Joey, you were talking a lot about leverage, other funding coming our way. Your ARPA money is a great opportunity for those 10% match, 20% match, all the different match that's going to come out of different grant programs that oftentimes for municipalities, they don't have the cash to serve as grant match. Well, now they do. And that's exactly why do we love this change? Because it allows towns to just stretch their ARPA dollars. So if you wanted to do a project with your ARPA money, you can now maybe find another source of money to help you fund it and just have your money service match rather than funding the entire project and eating it all up. What can you spend it on? This is a make sure eyes cross when you look at it. So there are expenditure categories within there, and what can towns spend their monies on? Lots of things, but for small rural towns, a lot of that just doesn't, it's not the right fit for the unique needs of their community. And so there's one expenditure category out of all of them that is the most flexible, nimble money, and that's the revenue replacement category, number 6. And it allows, with the final rule now, for towns to claim up to a $10 million standard allowance. So you either needed to calculate your revenue loss due to COVID-19 by using a complicated formula that was provided by Treasury, or they're allowing you to take up to a $10 million standard allowance. So if I'm community A and my ARPA award was $4 million, then I can claim my entire award as lost revenue. And when you do that, it allows you to spend it on the provision of government services. And so every single town, city, and village in the state of Vermont, with the exception of Burlington, has an award less than $10 million. So that means every town, city, and village in the state of Vermont can claim their entire award as lost revenue. And the provision of government services is the broadest brushstroke that you can really get in this funding. And so I have some examples there of what government services can be. It can be administration of staff and other administrative facilities, provision of police, fire, public safety services, including equipment, road, bridges, paving, you name it, it's there. Also, improvement to municipal buildings, which is a biggie. And again, non-federal match is now allowed. So throughout Vermont, I get, and for any of the RPCs on the call tonight, I'm sure they can attest at the number of inquiries that they get about ARPA. I've had over 2,000 to date since we kicked off in May, I want to say, is when we started taking inquiries. And these are some highlights that I've gotten the most inquiries about in terms of municipal operations, cybersecurity, IT, all of that stuff, hybrid meeting equipment, so folks can continue to meet and allow more people to participate, connecting public buildings to broadband, digitizing land records, capital improvements to municipal buildings, tons of inquiries on them. And a lot of it is around code compliance, and energy was a component. And so before the final rule came down, we were really trying to fit that in. Now it makes it that much easier. Creating capital plans and seeding positions to try and seek other funding, really, for the main purpose. And in terms of revitalizing community, a lot of interest around outdoor rec, diversity, equity, and inclusion, childcare, housing, bike and pedestrian safety, community gathering places, and the like. One thing I completely just lost my train of thought, and forgive me for that. So hopefully I'll remember what I was going to say, but it was in reference to something that one of you said. So nationally, it's always interesting to see what our friends and neighbors across the country are doing with their ARPA funds. And these are largely links that will tell you what big cities are doing it, but some of it's scalable to Vermont. The National League of Cities Local Action Tracker there is a really good site if you just are curious and want to see what other cities are doing. Public engagement, although public engagement is not a requirement of ARPA, it is strongly encouraged, and it's implicit in the language of the final rule. And since this money is largely discretionary, providing the opportunity for community members to share their input is critical. And this slide contains just a few examples of things that I've seen throughout Vermont, but you'll notice that ARPA advisory committee is on there, and we are seeing more and more towns choosing to create ARPA advisory committees. They're a great way for select boards to spread the work out and involve their citizens in their process. And because these committees are forming, probably much like energy committees throughout Vermont, they too are public bodies, so they have to follow open meeting law. And we created an ARPA advisory committee toolkit to help them along in that process. So you're probably all wondering, how can energy initiatives fit into local ARPA spending plans? Well, anyway, anything you can think of, you can pitch it and it can probably get spent that way. Our general rules in-house when we're talking about ARPA spending with communities are 3 rules. If it was illegal to spend your taxpayer money on it before ARPA, it's illegal with ARPA now too. If you fear there might be a conflict of interest, whether it's real or perceived, maybe you don't want to spend your ARPA money on it. And the third is, if it's something that you're not going to want to bring to your voters on town meeting day, then you shouldn't spend your ARPA money on it. Other than that, it's pretty wide open now. So if you have energy ideas, write them down and get ready to make your pitch. So improving public buildings, as I said, that's a big one. We have a lot of folks wanting to improve town halls, other municipal buildings. And this slide, if you click on the image, it takes you through to the ASHRAE slide, which is very, very cool. I'm sure you probably all know, and I'm with the right crowd here to know this information. So you can make improvements to the buildings themselves with energy focus, but also you mentioned the bill H518, which is the Municipal Energy Resiliency Grant Program. Talk that up to your legislators, make sure that they vote it through. It will be end up being $46 million of program money for municipal buildings. That is unheard of. And the way that it's currently being proposed, it is a component of ARPA funding that it's going to be going through as. So keep your eye on that. And as I said, mention it to your legislators and say, please pass this through. It's a great opportunity. I threw this link down here on this slide, literally while you were talking, because I just read it. We just announced today that VLCT is doing a partnership with Efficiency Vermont. And like I said, I was just reading it. And so municipalities that are interested in saving energy can sign up for a free energy assessment from Efficiency Vermont. So click the link, learn more. You'll probably be learning it in real time along with me, because we just launched that. I didn't even know about it until right now. Home weatherization, there's funding, $9 million that went to Vermont Housing Finance Agency, and they are working with other energy providers to launch a weatherization repayment assistance program. It's a pilot program. I'm not sure how many folks know about that. They're hoping it will reach 1,500 homes at least, and that it will be a pilot that will grow and maybe even fund itself over time. And you could use your local ARPA money to pair with this program to leverage and maybe offer more to your residents if they wanted to do home weatherization projects. And like I said, these are just a few examples. There's so many other opportunities that are forthcoming. Affordable community scale renewable energy. This is actually in the state of Vermont's state and local fiscal recovery performance plan that they have to submit, which is I thought was a really cool idea. Hopefully it will get advanced in this legislative session. But this is something that local money could also be paired with this, or serve as a grant match if there's a program that's forthcoming. So how can we make energy a priority for our local ARPA funds? Be part of the conversation, period. That's it. Get yourself in there. If your town has an ARPA advisory committee, see if you can have an energy committee member be appointed to the advisory committee, so you have your voice at the table there. If there's no representation allowed, then have somebody attend all the meetings. They're public, so you can go to them and you can participate in the discussion that way. If not formally as a member, then as someone from the public participating and having your voice heard. If there's no ARPA committee, ask your select board about their ARPA process and attend all their meetings at which ARPA is on their agenda. Bookmark your webpage for the agenda and check it each week to see what's going to be upcoming, and attend when you see that this discussion's on the agenda. If your town doesn't have a process identified yet, that's okay. Ask to be added to the agenda. Ask the select board if the energy committee can come and make a pitch for ARPA funding. So there's lots of ways to get involved. This is me. This is what I do all day, every day. I work with municipalities. This is my only function. Vermont is one of, Vermont's special. We do things differently and we're cutting edge compared to a lot of bigger states throughout the country. And this is no different. We are one of the only states, if not the only, I can't say that with 100% certainty, but I'm sure we're the only state that actually funded direct assistance to help municipalities with their local awards. So that's what I do all day, every day, and I'm doing it for the next 3 years. I work hand in glove with RPCs. I see a couple. I see Margot from Wyndham Regional Commission. She's my ARPA partner in Southern Vermont at WRC. And I don't know who else is on the call. I didn't get to check that closely, but I work very closely with the 11 regional planning commissions throughout the state. So if for some reason I'm not able to be reached for an ARPA inquiry, or you need that boots on the ground, the regional planning commissions are just critical in this work. And that's my contact information for anybody that has a question or wants more information or follow-up, feel free. So I am going to stop screen sharing. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer questions.
We are definitely going to have you answer questions. There are many questions, Katie. We might not get to all of them, but I want to say a few things. Holy wah, if you are not, as my native folk in Michigan say, holy wah, if you're not an ARPA expert, you're really darn close to it. And that was helpful. Thank you. We will be sharing these slides so that people can dig in more deeply. And if you can linger around, there are several questions after Anne presents, because as you noted, Katie, RPCs are also very pivotal partners in this transition. And, there's a lot of work to do, and you laid out some really important opportunity and guidance for the ARPA funds that will also potentially be applicable to setting the stage for, investments in our municipalities through the implementation of 518 and other ensuing opportunities. So that was incredibly helpful. I am going to turn it over now. And if you, Katie, will linger, you can see some of the questions in the chat. If they're easy for you to answer in the chat, that would be great. But otherwise, we're going to provide a space for folks to ask questions right after we hear from fabulous Ann Janda, who is the Senior Energy Project Manager at the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. RPCs are partnering with their communities, as Katie outlined, and as many of us know, they're a really important partner in this work. So Anne, if you are able to join us now on screen and sort of walk through and highlight your guidance on how communities can set the stage for investing in needed energy innovation projects. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Anne, if I can find you in this virtual world. Where are you?
I am here.
There you go. Anne,
Thank
welcome.
you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you, Katie, for that amazing presentation. My presentation might go over just a couple of the same things that you did. Can everyone see my screen now?
We can see it. It's not in presenter mode, but we can see it.
Okay. Let's get that going. Okay. So I want to talk to you about how.
Hey, Anne, really quickly before, we don't want to give subtitles a try in this moment, unless you can actually turn it on, but it's showing up a little odd for me, if maybe for others as well. Can you go to slideshow view?
I am in slideshow view.
In the wrong screen to share with us. We're seeing your back end and we want to see your front end. So
Right.
try unsharing and resharing it.
Okay. I'm gonna do that. Okay, so instead of sharing the screen, should I share my screen or should I share my presentation?
I think you should share your screen and then go to your presentation and put it in slideshow mode.
Okay.
And we'll go with.
Is that better?
That's better. We'll go with that if that's what we can get. Oh, There we go. Ding, ding, ding. Sam, take it away.
All right. Okay. So yes, I work at Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. I am a project manager. My background is not necessarily in energy. It's in projects having to do with municipal government. I worked in Milton, Shelburne, and Essex, and a few other municipalities before joining the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to point out, like Katie did, that if you haven't already started working with the energy planners at your RPC, we are here to help. The work that we've been doing for the last few years is helping municipalities with their enhanced energy plans. Now we are able to help with the implementation of those energy plans. That could mean anything from technical assistance, which would include grant writing, but also just information. That's most of what I've been doing so far, since there aren't that many grants ready yet. They're coming, but they're not here yet. So answering technical questions, a lot of it has to do with ARPA right now. Also identifying strategic energy investments, which we're going to talk about a little bit next, and project management support. So if you have an energy project that you're working on, contact your energy planner at your RPC. They can offer you support. So next, based on my municipal experience, I just want to, many of you are probably doing this already. I just want to kind of go through a to-do list. If you haven't done this so far, this would be my recommendation, that the chair of your energy committee should set up a meeting with the town manager or administrator and let them know what you've been up to and pick their brain. Ask them if they can help, if they know how you can help, if you can find out more about the things that you're interested in doing from them. That's a really good start. And it's at that point when you can request from your manager or administrator to put your committee on a select board meeting agenda. You should request that, I would say, at least a few times a year. If you can't all make it, you can designate a member or, ideally the chair to come to these meetings to talk to the select board and ask them what you can do to help. Also know what you've been working on, what you're concerned about, what kind of grants you might be hearing about, and what your priorities are. In addition, like Katie said, it's really ideal if the select board chooses a member to be a liaison to your committee, where that select board member can either attend some of your meetings or have meetings with the chair of your committee to find out what's going on, so that they can be the select board's sort of resident expert when it comes to energy related items. And then when you're meeting with your select board, I highly recommend referring to your enhanced energy plans. That will just give you the, it'll make your ideas relevant, because the enhanced energy plans have been signed off on by the whole town, including the select board. And so if you point to those things in the plan that you want to complete or prioritize, that will just give you a lot more standing with your select board. Also, you should see yourselves as advisors to planning commissions, housing committees, and possibly other committees that serve in your municipality. So you might want to meet with, or the chair of your energy committee might want to meet with the chair of the planning commission, or to attend a planning commission meeting. The same with housing committees. So doing these things, if you haven't done them already, should enable you to really get more done, more complete, and to understand what's going on sort of inside the operations of the municipality. So that leads to making strategic investments in your municipal operations. So as I know, I know you've all been doing a lot of work on advocating for heat pumps and buildings and thermal upgrades in the community, but we also need to be doing that in our municipal buildings. Montpelier has a net zero energy action plan for their municipal buildings. If you haven't looked at that, I highly recommend taking a peek. VEIC did a really good job of putting that together. They have made recommendations for larger buildings for other types of apparatuses like pellet boilers. So it's not just heat pumps necessarily. But getting a little deeper into heat pumps, because electricity is still more expensive than natural gas if natural gas is being used. Weatherizing first is really important. Looking at the capital costs is really important. Putting heat pumps in the town's capital plan is ideal because they do have high upfront costs. The mini split heat pumps are less expensive, more affordable, but in some cases, buildings would need ducted heat pump systems. Thinking about how these things might save the town on energy costs, the mini split heat pumps are very good for cooling, much less expensive, and probably cool a whole lot better. Additionally, heat pump hot water heaters should be looked at. That adds a lot to the energy budget. It can substantially reduce your energy costs that way. Also talking about adding some solar panels to defray the cost of going electric. And I do know that the governor's draft budget does include some dollars for solar panels for municipal. So hopefully that information will be coming out soon, and it's really exciting. So like Katie said, there's this new cooperation with VLCT and Efficiency Vermont. I can speak to this if Michelle's not here, but you can go to this page. It's just efficiencyvermont.com/towns and look to see how towns can get support for free walkthroughs and consultations before doing any of the weatherization. It does have to be a municipal official that orders this consultation. It can't be a committee member, so it's important to talk to your municipal officials about doing this. I know for my region, I will also be sending out an email probably tomorrow to municipal officials and public works directors about this page and encouraging them to have this consultation if they haven't done it already. And then secondly, electrifying vehicles and equipment in your municipal operations. There's a path to doing that should be pretty straightforward. Vermont Clean Cities Coalition can come to your town, can talk to you on the phone. They can do a fleet assessment and help municipal public works put together a capital plan to over time electrify their fleets. There's a large upfront cost to doing this, but over time the fuel costs will go way down. So that needs to be part of the calculation, and that's what Vermont Clean Cities Coalition can do to assist. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation.
That's great, Anne. Thank you so much. We're getting a lot of questions in the chat, and we're going to take a few of those questions before we go into our small group breakouts. But one thing I would say that I just want to underscore is this is a moment in time to really sort of step back and help your municipality assess the most strategic opportunity, when it comes to saving energy dollars and reducing fossil fuel consumption. And as Katie noted, we have until the end of 2024 to, appropriate ARPA dollars, and there are probably other dollars moving down the road. So taking the time, getting involved with your select board, getting on the ARPA committee, or in general, getting into that mix will be super important. I want to open the door for a couple of really critical questions that people might have for Katie and Anne, and thank them both for all of their work and their overviews this evening. So let's take a few questions. There are several in the chat, and I'm just wondering, I haven't had the chance to look to see if there are themes, but people want to raise their hand and ask their question that might not be captured in the chat, or if there's a significant theme that you all see that we can ask of Katie or Anne. Do people have questions they want to make sure answered? Raise your hand. Or I'm just gonna pull one. Anyone question that they want to ask publicly? Pressing? All right, Mark, please.
Mark, you're muted.
Yeah, Mark, you're muted. We'll just take a couple questions so people.
Okay, let's try that again.
Okay, there we go.
There's another of other alternatives to heat pumps that are high efficiency, such as thermal solar, ground source geothermal, biofuels, municipal level bioenergy recovery from wastewater treatment. Are any of those being offered or discussed as potential incentives?
Through ARPA or otherwise? Sorry, my internet connection was unstable. I don't know if Katie, do you have an answer to that question?
I'm not sure what, when you say are being discussed, are they eligible to use local ARPA dollars on?
Yes, and is there any agency that's trying to work with the local municipalities to put these ideas in front of them as alternative solutions for them?
I don't know of state agencies that would, but municipalities could use their money in that way. So if there was a state or federal program that was a funding source for initiatives like that, then you can use your local ARPA money either as grant match or to pair with, or to pay for a feasibility study that you could then apply for funding to get more funds. I don't know if that answers your question, but your local dollars are pretty unrestrained if those are different types of projects that communities could entertain. You certainly can use your ARPA funding to direct fund or to leverage additional funds.
Well, there would be a great amount of duplication of effort if every municipality tried to do a feasibility study for systems that are well established. It seems like that should be looked at from a state level.
That one's kind of out of my depth, I think. I'm sorry.
Well, point
Mark,
taken. Go ahead.
Mark, I know just a little bit to be dangerous about the situation. Geothermal is significantly more expensive. Geothermal heat pumps are significantly more expensive than the mini split heat pumps. And it kind of depends on the location. Over time, there's a high upfront cost. I've heard that the sort of average cost is $50,000 for a system. Depends on the size of the building, and but over time, it is the energy costs are lower with the geothermal heat pumps.
Thanks,
Right now,
Anne.
there's no grant money necessarily for that specifically.
Right.
Mhm.
This has been a significant obstacle for a lot of local municipalities because they don't have the upfront funds, even though the payback period is short, and the longevity of the system enables them to have an excellent municipal advantage down the road.
Yeah. There are so many questions. I think it's an important point and lots of important things that we want to get to. And I see more hands raised and more questions that we're not going to be able to get to. So we are really wanting to be cognizant of people's time and we want to get into small breakouts. I'm going to turn to Bill for one last question and really encourage you to put your questions in the chat. And as Greta said, we're going to, follow up with you to try and get those answers in a written form after this, because we want to go into small breakouts where ideally many of those questions could also be answered. So let's get at least one more question. Please put your question in the chat. Bill, take it away.
Can ARPA funds be used for electric school buses? Try to get electric school buses in operation.
Short answer is yes, but that would be if a municipality chooses to use its local dollars for its school, which is a separate entity. So
Okay.
Schools did get some of their own ARPA funding. It was largely around modifying buildings for ventilation, and there are other funds. But typically, I don't know how it is in all of your communities, but in most that I have worked in and with, it's school and municipal funds are kept separately. There's some crossover if there's community benefit, but a school bus might be a tough sell for residents, voters. But yes, if you voted to do that, if you chose to do that. And just when I said voted, my apology, you don't need to bring anything to a town meeting vote. Your select board is the ultimate decision maker.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any last quick questions? Because I'm going to pivot us or not. Okay, Yves, and then I'm going to pivot us.
So a quick comment on heat pumps. Water-based heat pumps are also a great alternative. We're putting them in the town hall this year, and they go to much, much lower temperatures. And what I'm wondering is whether the ARPA funds can be used for residential assessments as well as municipal assessments.
Is that to me?
Probably.
Probably, Katie, yeah.
I would say yes. The difficulty in doing residential assistance is that you're going to need staff. You'll need to stand up a program and then administer it on the local level. So it might be easier to connect your residents with resources at the state level or elsewhere than do direct assistance with your local ARPA dollars. Does that make sense?
It does. So to clarify, we've partnered with a couple of different Efficiency Vermont partners, certified partners, like Building Energy and that do the professional assessments, and then prioritize a path for the residents. Is that something that we would be able to fund with ARPA dollars, which we are currently funding with budgeted dollars?
Yes, you could do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I'm going to pivot us because there are so many, I know there are so many other questions and we're going to try to get to them, but I also want to potentially capture them and have a dialogue in the small group chats. But a few things I just want to underscore is that ARPA is a huge opportunity. Those opportunities or those needs are just going to, accelerate over the course of time. So doing the planning is really important. I'm going to pivot us momentarily into these small breakouts and turn to my fabulous colleague, Sarah Brock. But one thing I just wanted to say is that, as you heard from Katie, I just want to underscore it on ARPA, and in general, the legislative body, select board, city councils, board of aldermen, et cetera, are the ultimate arbiters of how these dollars are going to be spent. So they're going to be an important barometer for and important for you to partner with if you have not already, and I know many of you have, to make sure that these dollars are spent strategically for, fossil fuel reducing, energy saving investments. So I just want to put on your radar, and I'm going to ask Greta to drop it in the chat. We have been thinking about what are the tools we can put together to support energy committees as you ramp this work and help partner with your municipalities regarding ARPA, but also potentially regarding other state or federal funding opportunities, or just in general, helping them reduce their reliance on the imported fossil fuels that we're currently collectively very reliant on, which is a tenuous place to be, unfortunately, as we are all well aware at this moment. So we have 2 resources that we've put together. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on them. One is a draft memo that potentially could be an outreach overture to your select boards or legislative bodies, city councils. Many of you are deeply partnered with or connected to those municipal leaders. Some of you are not. As Katie said, this is a really important moment to do that. So we have a draft memo on the website that is adaptable. It's a work in progress that we want to really make sure we're supporting you in various ways, and RPCs, your RPC point people, will be really critical to supporting you in developing that relationship and case making for these, utilizing these unprecedented federal funds and potentially ensuing state and other federal dollars to really prioritize strategic investments. So that is one tool we've developed. Greta will share that with you on our municipal resources page, which is in progress, but we wanted to share that with you. And we're also considering developing some sort of community assessment tool to help you all, based on the survey and in general, begin to identify what are the, really priority potential investments that your municipalities might need to or want to make when it comes to, their heating resources or their fleets in particular, but also their power resources. So we have a couple of tools that we really want to make sure meet the moment and support you in the best way possible. Your input on them will be incredibly important. So I just want to flag them for you right now and ask you to sort of reflect on them a little bit later and potentially in the small breakout rooms. And I'm now going to turn it over to Sarah Brock to sort of give us the lay of the land and push us into smaller group conversations. So Sarah, take it away.
Thanks, Zoe, and hi everyone. Some of you know me. I'm Sarah Brock, Program Director at Vital Communities in the Upper Valley, and I work with a lot of the energy groups in that neck of the woods. We just took in a lot, and we're shifting to the portion of the evening where we're going to try to filter that and understand what that means for us on the ground. And I hope that by the time we all leave tonight, we can all leave feeling like we're clear on a next step for each of our own communities toward making sure that some, and maybe a lot of these ARPA and other municipal funding dollars do go towards savvy investments toward our climate and energy goals. And we're each in a different place along that journey. And we're going to reflect together about where we are and what we need to do to get there and what help we might need, to Joey's point. So what we're going to do right now, we are going to do 2 things. One, I'm going to share some food for thought questions with you to reflect on. And we're going to take a few minutes all together here in the big group to reflect silently and process how this relates in your particular situation in your town. Then we're going to have a chance to go into small groups, no more than about 10 people in each group, and share with each other where we're at. And you're going to get to hear from each other what other folks are thinking about in terms of prioritizing their dollars, what questions you all have, what kind of help you think you need to get from here to there. And we've got people who volunteered to take some notes so that we can share all of that back with VECAN and the other partners who presented tonight, so we can try to get you the resources that would actually help you make progress. So the couple of things we're going to all be reflecting individually and then together on, there's sort of 3 parts to this. One, what do you already know about what your select board or your city councilors are thinking? We heard today from the speakers that the decision is going to come down to your local leadership. So do you already know where their heads are at? Do they know how they want to spend that money? How clear are they, or how involved have you been in the process so far? So that's the first piece to reflect on. The second piece to reflect on is whether you've got a wish list and how clear that wish list is for the kinds of energy and climate related projects that you would really like to see your town spend money on. Is that list clear in your head, and have you communicated it yet, and to what extent to your town leaders? And then the final piece is, what's the next step to get closer to being confident that those funds are actually going to get spent, at least in part, on those kinds of projects that you know should be top priority? Is the next step that you need to come up with the projects, communicate about them, build relationships with your select board, and what help do you need to do those next steps? Because if we can communicate what help we need, we might just get it from VECAN, from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and otherwise. So I'm going to pop a summary of that prompt in the chat for you to reference. And we're going to take a couple minutes here to just be quiet and think that through. So again, you're thinking about how aware am I about where my town is? Do we have a wish list for energy and climate projects? And are we clear on it? Have we communicated it? And what's our unique next step in our town to get closer to being confident that some of these funds are going to go toward energy and climate projects? And while you're reflecting, if any question was coming up for you that you didn't get a chance to ask, go ahead and put that in the chat. Really important that we capture that so we can get those questions back out to you with good answers. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute or two, grab a piece of paper, think about how this relates to you, and then I'll bring us back and explain the small groups again. About 30 more seconds, and then I'll bring us back together. All right, I hope you appreciated that moment of quiet to get your head on straight. We are now going to break out into small rooms. There's going to be someone who's already volunteered in each of your rooms to take some notes. And I'm gonna paste again in the chat as we go in what those prompts are. But basically what you're gonna do is you'll have your facilitator there. They will call on each of you and you'll each have a chance to share what's coming up for you. And be brief, but this is a chance to hear from each other about the kinds of projects you're thinking about the kinds of questions you have, and particularly what you think you need to do next and what help you need. And we'll collect all of those ideas, and that will really help us all with next steps. So go ahead and send us into our rooms and have a wonderful time connecting. We'll be back in 20-25 minutes to draw the winner. Of why we had people in each room taking notes. We're going to collect all of that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and ideas. We're not going to report back out right now. I'm going to hand it right back over to Johanna Miller to bring us forward in the agenda.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you so much again, you guys, for lingering on this beautiful evening, and for everything you're doing in your towns, and for the wisdom you just shared in those small groups. We recognize how much we just crammed into one evening, but I hope you know that our commitment as the sort of VECAN team partners and as an informal network is to really sort of work strategically at the local level to really make progress in our municipalities, with the municipalities themselves and with the residents in those towns. You know, there are huge opportunities with the ARPA dollars, you know, with potentially the Municipal Energy Innovation Resilience Bill and beyond. So we really wanted to use this moment to sort of capture your, you know, your insights from the survey, you know, sort of really focus in on the sort of funding and capacity, which were core themes and needs. And we've done some of that. You had more questions than we were able to answer, but we are going to capture all of those and loop back with you all. We will share the presentations and the sort of survey summary for you all to dig in more deeply. And we're going to build out this municipal energy resource page so that you are indeed, to the degree that you are not already, connected to your regional planning commission, connected to Efficiency Vermont, connected to the partners that you need to really move your priorities forward. And to the degree that you need sort of support in prioritizing where you'd like to put your energy, I think there are a lot of resources that we'd love to lend to you. But I want to sort of really end the evening with a sincere thanks again to the 56 different communities who took a lot of time to fill out a really important survey that is going to you know, inform our work to date, again, with partners in VECAN, the regional planning commissions and beyond. And we know how much time that takes. We know how much work you do, mostly as volunteers at the local level. And we, you know, really wanted to celebrate and support you all, many of whom who don't have resources to do this work. And we put out there the raffle opportunity for $1,000 prize, and we randomly drew it on Monday. And Greta, with all of her wired wizard skills, put together our random drawing, and we're going to do that now and want to award, and as we thank everyone, award one randomly selected community. Drum roll, Greta, I'll turn it over to you to do the honor.
And there's no drum roll, so Joey, maybe you can like bang your hands.
I'm a terrible drummer. My kid might be able to, but I'm terrible.
Okay.
So no drum roll. Okay, anyone else who's got skills? Here we go.
Try not to be blown away by this wheel that I'm about to click play on. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Is this the Wheel of Fortune?
Oh,
yeah.
If only we could get that. Where is it gonna land? Where is it gonna land? Randolph.
Yay!
It might have been a little anticlimactic, but is Gary Durr or any other fabulous member of the Randolph Energy Committee still on the line? I saw Gary. Oh, Susan, there you go. Gary. $1,000. We'll have to coordinate with you all to get those dollars into your energy committee coffers. We'd love to support more of you with funding that you all need to do this work. But Randolph, we will be looking forward to delivering $1,000 into your coffers to support the energy work that you are doing. I know we are a little bit over time, and I cannot underscore how much we crammed into this evening, but congrats to Randolph. Thank you to everyone who made this evening possible, to the RPC leaders, to Katie Buckley, to Ann Janda, to all the facilitators. We will follow up capturing your questions and comments in the chat. And we have a lot more webinars in the works. Greta, I don't know if you can drop in the chat on March 30th, we're hosting a Rewiring America event. We've partnered with Rewiring America and Burlington Electric Department and the City of Burlington to bring that to you all. Thanks to Jock Gill of the Peacham Energy Committee for pushing us on that. And we're going to have many other events to follow. So much going on. And we will certainly be following up, and just want to say thanks again to everyone who made this possible, and Sarah for facilitating the breakouts, and our fabulous colleague Sheldon, who is behind the scenes making it possible, so many others. So really appreciate all you all are doing. I'm going to give you your evening back, and please feel free to be in touch, and with deep gratitude. So continue on, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Keep it up, everybody.
Thanks
Good
so
night.
much.
Night all.
Night.
Good night.
Sheldon, I think if you want to end the meeting, we're good. I've got the chat. Thank you so much.